I was nervous it wasn't going to start, so... I don't know what kind of emoji that is, but like... maybe... excited emoji? La la la. Oh, hi Guillermo. Oh, look at the youths. Cat's here. Oh, good. Oh, good. So you're hearing everything. That's fun. Christina's here. Oh, I'm so excited, guys. Hold on. We're gonna wait to the tutoring until 7 p.m. So start to think about some of the things you have questions about. Consider those things. 11 of my followers, Kat. You are very famous. Oh, you guys are funny. Christina, you and me both. You and me both. Ah. I'm gonna send out a remind right now, reminding people to tune in to our live stream. Since we started, we've lost 2 people. We were at 11 people, now we're at 9. Same, Cat, same. Good question. Kat just asked if you need anything. I suggest getting paper, something to write with. Have out your notes if you want to have out your ISN just to kind of flip through. I may be asking questions. I don't really know. Again, this is our super fun cool hip thing, but yeah. So I don't know what you need. I suggest do not write in your ISN. I suggest writing on a separate sheet of paper. Make this something different. I personally have like a boatload of markers, and like look at all the markers. I just sent to all my classes. Yes, Gage, unit expectations is due tomorrow. I love. Look at you guys. Aw, you're waiting for this to start because you guys are so excited. I'm so excited. So really and truly, guys, I want this to be something where you're getting an opportunity to ask me questions. I'm going to be starting with I'm going to be starting with talking about George Washington, mostly because he is going to be addressed on this test, and the things that happened in his presidency happen or are important for several presidencies to come. Okay, so let's talk about George Washington. There you go. George Washington. Look at me spelling words right. George Washington was our first president. We talked about in class a few of the things that happened in his presidency. For instance, he was the first. Well, obviously he was the first president, but he set many precedents. In class, we talked about how a precedent is it's kind of like the start of a tradition. And he started the Mr. President tradition, where we address the president as Mr. President. He also started the idea of having a cabinet. And if he had a cabinet, consider that was like his group of advisors. I'm going to wait and see. Can you guys remember who the members of his cabinet were? Let's see what the delay on this thing is. Who are the members of Washington's cabinet? Ooh, I'm liking it. Hamilton was the Secretary of the Treasury. Who else did he have? Jefferson. Very good. Gage. Jefferson was the Secretary of State. And I'm putting state in parentheses because state meant like foreign affairs. He was in charge of foreign affairs. Adams was actually not. It was like super upsetting because John Adams was the vice president but had very little power, actually. Very little power. Adams was kind of like, sadly, like left out in the rain, so I'm going to do this thing where I'm going to make like his VP was Adams, and he was like sad because like he was left out in the cold. That's supposed to be a snowflake. You should be super intimidated by my artwork. Super impressed by my artwork. All right. So, important things for us to see or notice. Hold on, let me take control of this video thing for a few minutes. Guys, I'm trying to pay attention to what you guys are saying because I want to be able to help you, but I also need it to not get too goofy. I'm okay with a little goof, but not like too crazy. Other things that happened during Washington's presidency that I want us to think about, really importantly, was the farewell address that he gives. The farewell address he gives. In his farewell address, he warns against two things. In his farewell address. One of those things is political parties. He says he truly believes political parties will destroy the nation. Any good that we've done, he says it's going to ruin it. Ooh, and I'm looking and I see another person has said, stay out of foreign affairs. No foreign affairs. And he actually didn't say, he said we should stay out of deals with Europe, so we're going to say foreign affairs. But you know what he really said, what he spoke of, I want to say this-ish, because what he really said is no permanent foreign alliances. So when he says that, he says really the deal is we don't need any unnecessary conflict, and when we pick sides, when it's really not our place, it's going to cause some issues. And so he says, just stay out of it. Let's not have permanent foreign alliances. Let's just stay out of it. Now, another things that we're gonna see that happen. Oh, look at more of my children coming. Hi guys. It's fun to see you guys come and join the stream. But the next thing we're gonna look at is other things that happened during his presidency. He also passes the Neutrality Proclamation. And the Neutrality Proclamation was important because at the time, France and England were involved in some conflicts. We had the Neutrality Proclamation, which basically just means we're not going to choose sides. We choose peace. We're going to choose peace. We're going to choose not to choose. We're going to choose to not pick sides here. We're going to do us. We're going to worry about us. We're going to let Europe be Europe's problem. Now, one last thing I do want to talk about, as we were mentioning Hamilton, I'm going to go to my green pen because, green is fun, and also because monies. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm circling the money on Hamilton because Hamilton, our Secretary of Treasury, he has to help solve a problem. What problem does Hamilton face or Washington face when he becomes president? He has to solve a problem, and I want you guys to try to guess what problem he has to solve, or try to remember what problem he has to solve. What problem does he have to solve? Anybody? Debt? Ooh, I see it. Jack is in a timeout. He's not he's in a timeout. He's fine. Now, Hamilton's financial plan is the plan to get our nation out of debt. And he's going to do a few things. He wants to do a few things. One of the things he wants to do very good is he wants to put a tax, oh, look at me spelling things wrong, put a tax on whiskey. He does want to put a tax on whiskey. Now, this is problematic because it only happens... it only affects the South. That's the only people that it's going to affect. And so this hurts the South. Sad face. Because they're the only ones who actually make whiskey. It's a problem. He also, I see somebody else has written, he wants a national bank. The farmers do... I'm seeing you guys are doing so much. I love it. He wants a national bank. Another thing that he wants within his financial plan is he wants to create a national bank. He also wants protective tariffs. And I want somebody to, over in the chat, I want you guys to try to think, why do we care about protective tariffs? Let's see. Haven't seen anyone say it yet. But I did see that someone talked about the Whiskey Rebellion. I think that was Michaela. The Whiskey Rebellion, which showed the strength of the federal government. So that was pretty cool. Oh, Kat said it was. There may have been a few people that said it. Things happen. Ooh, I did see that somebody said that people are gonna buy more American goods rather than British goods. That's why we want protective tariffs. I see you guys answering my questions. I love it. Protective tariffs. People buy more domestic goods. And remember, the word domestic means at home. So we're talking about domestic problems people faced. That's what that is. Now, guys, I give you shout outs when you answer the questions. So that's what we're looking at here. Okay. So I'm going to try to move this up again. I'm going to change I'm going to change paper, so that's going to move. This is going to get moved out of the way. And we're going to move on to political parties. Yes, Washington sets aside the slave problem. He doesn't really want to deal with it at the time. There are kind of other things he wants to do. So we're going to start with... I wonder if that was really loud for you guys. Sometimes when I shake the papers like that, it's like rage. Okay, so political parties. Political parties are started because of the fundamental differences between two of because of the two differences between Alexander Hamilton and the ideas of Thomas Jefferson. Now, I just read that somebody said, I get the political parties so messed up. So mixed up. Somebody just asked, when was the Neutrality Proclamation? It was during Washington's presidency. All you really need to know is that because of that, we didn't get into war with France or England. Now we have two different political parties who have two different ideals based on the men that they represent. Jefferson represents a group that call themselves the Democratic Republicans. And remember, I like to use green to represent the Democratic Republicans because the Democratic Republicans are from the South. They get most of their support from the South and the West. The people that follow them are primarily agrarian farmers. I like that I saw someone said Jefferson, he was Little House on the Prairie. Because that's true. That's kind of what I like to say. I like to say that his dream for America is Little House on the Prairie. I can't even spell prairie right now, so we're gonna assume that says prairie. It's what that is. So we have the South and the West. It's a primarily agrarian. They want primary focus. They want states' rights. They believe in states' rights and the state's power to do various things. They fear putting power in the national government. They fear putting too much power in the national government. They fear it's going to be like England. It's not going to be fun. Hamilton, Democratic Republicans as a whole, it wasn't. I'm seeing a lot of people are trying to talk about slavery right now. Democratic Republicans, they want a primarily agrarian lifestyle. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were all pro-slavery. Again, our founding fathers decided at this time it was best to put that on hold, to take that and put that somewhere else. Now, Hamilton's dream for America and for the Federalists, his dream for America, I see a lot of you saying it, was what New York City became. Federalists primarily want industry, big city. I'm seeing a lot of you guys write really good things. Industrial. He gets most of his support from New England. Notice I didn't say the North, because when we're talking about where most of the problems are taking place, or most of kind of the issues take place, it's in kind of that New England area. They want everything mainly industrial. They believe in a national bank. They're going to support the idea of a national bank. They're going to support the idea of not only a national bank, but power in the national government. National government. Also, it's made up of pretty much the wealthy and elite. Whereas Democratic Republicans they like to consider themselves the party of the common man. But Jefferson died, $15,000 in debt, and it was an issue. So it's not like he lived the life of a common man, but he appreciated the life of the common man. Last thing, kind of before we move on from political parties, to think about is also kind of who they supported politically overseas. Federalists support the British. They want to be allies with the British because they are economically the best for us. So think rich guys always thinking about the monies. Whereas Democratic Republicans, they want us to side with the French or France. I realize that I just did two different tenses on either side, but mind me. France, when we're talking about France, it's going to be primarily that it's because of revolution. And so if I can draw a French flag, maybe I will. Blue, white, and red. Look, it's a French flag. I'm so good at things. La 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 la. Okay, that's not really what it looks like, but kind of. Good question. The issue with tariffs. Tariffs are an issue that both of the parties have ideas on. Hamilton's party, they support tariffs. Everything's wrong. So they support tariffs. And then the Democratic Republicans are against them. And here's why. I'm going to shorten that just for my own. And here's why. Protective tariffs. Oh my goodness. Guys, it's kind of cracking me up that as I'm trying to talk, I keep seeing y'all's comments and I want to say things and be like, oh, haha, but it's going to get me way off. So I am trying to read what you said. I did see someone said something about protective tariffs and kind of what can I explain those. Remember that protective tariffs, if we have goods, and Miss Puckett's going to draw a teacup because, I'm a super good artist. Goods made in two different places. And let's say in France, this cup costs $3 to make. And in Britain, in America, it costs $3.50. So this is British. This is America. And so let's say we want to add a $1 profit. If the profit was $1 for each, then the British cup would cost $4 and the American cup would cost $4.50. Which is the American consumer most likely to buy? The cheaper one. They are most likely to buy the cheaper one. Now, because they are most likely to buy the cheaper one, we have to figure out a way for them to buy American goods. So what we decided to do is we put a tariff on them. The tariff that we place is, let's say it's at a 40, the tariff goes to 40%, which would be, I feel like this is the example we did in class, and if I did my handy dandy calculations, 10% is 30 cents, $1.20, so I feel like if the tariff, the tariff was 40%, Can someone do the math for me, because I'm having a hard time mathing right now? What is 40% of $4? Someone. Ooh, why does this hurt American workers? Ooh, you're asking good questions. $2.16? Is that right? Okay. Whatever it is, it makes it more expensive. So now the British good costs more money. So now the British goods are not going to want to be bought because they cost more money, and the American goods are cheaper. Buy the American teapot. It's cheaper. Because now the British goods are more expensive, our goods are cheaper, and there you go. Hannah, I'm not here to do math. Hashtag same. This hurts American workers and this hurts the South, and the reason the South doesn't like these is because it forces them to buy American goods. Well, the problem is, where are the goods made? Where are the goods made? They're not made up north. They're not that they're not made up north, they're not made down south, and so Southerners and people from the South and the West are going to have to not buy goods from England or Europe like they want to. They're going to have to buy goods from the north, and they just don't like that. Britain won't like the tariffs. Now, Britain doesn't like the tariffs because it stops us from buying their goods. Okay. Next up. I'm trying to look at y'all's tests to be sure that I covered everything. One of the big issues was how they differed a great deal on how the nation should develop. Big idea. Let me get my big idea pen. Big idea. The big idea is that they had different ideas on how the nation should develop altogether. So because of that, I know you guys probably can't see this, but look, it's a light bulb. The big idea here is they had different ideas on how the nation should develop, not only economically. They had differing ideas on how the nation should develop economically and the power of the federal government. Ooh, I'm seeing good questions about Marbury versus Madison and sectionalism. Sectionalism struggles. Sectionalism causes a struggle because they want different things. Okay, so moving on. Now we're out of political parties. We're going to go to the fairly uneventful presidency of John Adams. Yes, Kat, you can have time at the end to ask for questions. John Adams. John Adams really only had two things that went on in his presidency that we care to talk about. Mostly, my favorite video of the year, XYZ affair. And if I haven't done a performance for your class, you're missing out because Miss Puckett does a killer impression of all the things. I like that Adams was boring. He did like nothing except for what he did. which was almost nothing. He did do very little. The XYZ affair that was dealing with France, and it wasn't. We already talked about that. We just said we won't. We're not going to pay a bribe. We're not going to pay a bribe. We'd rather fight a war than pay an expensive bribe. Millions for defense. Millions for defense. Not 1 cent for tribute. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're looking at. Okay, exactly. America won't back down. I like that. Another thing that happened during his presidency was the Alien and Sedition Act, which was a little rough. The Alien Act is where he told immigrants who at the time were coming from France that they were going to have to, when they got to the United States, it was going to take longer for them to become citizens. And then when they became citizens, they weren't going to be allowed to vote for a long time. The ironic thing about that situation is that mostly they were voting for Democratic Republicans, and John Adams, as we know, was a Federalist. So, boom. So what we end up having is the Sedition Act. The other one is the Sedition Act. Now, the Sedition Act is important because it basically says that if you say bad things against the government, you're a threat to national security. So we have this poor guy, and he was saying things, and John Adams says, "Don't speak out against the government. You're not allowed." I just realized how morbid that looks. It was a little rough. This happy guy was speaking out against the government, and he's told he can't do that. Now, what is it called? What amendment said that you had to, you're not allowed to do that? What amendment says that you're not allowed to do that? The First Amendment. Oh, good. I don't know why I just wrote first like a $sign. It shows you kind of where I'm at, guys, in terms of tiredness. We're going to say the First Amendment says that. Okay. Good question. Did people find out about the XYZ affair and act poorly? People found out and they were like mad and they wanted to go to war, and Adams was like, no, let's not go to war. And that's kind of where it ended. Moving on, we have the election of 1800, which we did talk about in class. For the election of 1800, that's true, Alex, I am very tired. I feel like there's something I'm missing here. Then we have the election of 1800. Sorry, guys, that was like intermission. Take a moment. The election of 1800. And the outcome of the election of 1800, obviously, is the 12th Amendment, which limited disputed elections, and it let the president picks his vice president. So after Chuck, I love it. Can we get back to politics, please? Yo. Jeremy, you're gonna be able to go and watch all of this when we get back. The 12th Amendment, again, is where the president gets to pick his VP. Now we're gonna move on to Jefferson, which is kind of where our semester started. Jefferson. Okay, so Jefferson comes in, and there's primarily three big things I told you guys you needed to know about him. One was the Louisiana Purchase. And Ethan Hydick, I feel like you were the one that was asking about this one. You were asking, can we talk about the dates? You need to know the Louisiana Purchase happened in 1803. The Louisiana Purchase happens in 1803. He sends Lewis and Clark to explore it. I think, guys, on your notes this is spelled wrong. It's spelled O-U. It's Lewis. Lewis and Clark are sent to explore it. It cost about $15 million. It cost $15 million. It was actually the reason that we really wanted this land was because we wanted the port of New Orleans. We wanted the port of New Orleans because it was going to help us with trade. There you go. I'm super good at words. All the things are happening. Oh, there you go. Lewis is not Louis. Thank you, Michaela. That's nice. Now, the next thing I want you guys to know, not only was the Louisiana Purchase important, but then we also had something else, and that would be the court case that we talked about. Mr. Boudreaux did that really great, he did a really great comic book for you. Marbury versus Madison established the principle of judicial review. And I want you guys to think for a minute, what did judicial review say? What did it say? What was its deal? What was the deal with judicial review? Judicial review meant that the Supreme Court can declare laws unconstitutional. Ooh, I like that I saw that word before I even said it. It can declare laws unconstitutional. If it doesn't follow the Constitution, it won't be allowed. Now, that said, remember Marbury versus Madison is a court case. Let me scoot this up because I feel like you guys can't see some of it. Last thing that he did. Last thing that he did, we're talking about the Embargo Act. Now, the Embargo Act was one of those situations where we all just kind of cringe. We all just kind of cringe at Jefferson because he does it because the British keep impressing our sailors and the French keep impressing our sailors, and he says, this isn't right. This is messed up. I know what we're going to do. We're going to prove that we don't need you. Is it all a little blurry? Is it better yet? I think it's better. Okay, like I said, the Embargo Act, boom, getting back on track. The Embargo Act, he passes because he says, we don't need other countries, we're fine on our own. So he stops all trade. Now, here's why this is a problem. There's a little thing called global interdependence. And so after Jefferson's presidency, our economy goes way down. Our economy plummets. Sad face economy. And this is all because, again, Jefferson was feeling like, we don't need people, we're fine. It was terrible for the economy. Ooh, I like that I'm seeing you guys respond. It makes me happy. The idea was, though, that we were trying to punish France and Britain. But it was a terrible form of punishment because really we just hurt ourselves. And all of this eventually led to okay. R.I.P. the economy indeed. Okay, so next thing we're going to be talking about, moving on. Look at us. We're skedaddling right along. War of 1812. Now, for the War of 1812, you guys needed to know, I'm like having a wonderful time trying to pick from all my colors. You need to know causes. You need to know events. And you need to know outcome. And you need to know the change in the economy. So right now, if you want to get your paper kind of set up like this so you can do this with me. All right. The War of 1812 started in 1812. Oh my goodness. Alright. Now, moving on. Causes of the War of 1812. It was primarily British impressment. There's one other reason. Think about it, write about it, all the things. British impressment. This was on your UNet expectations. British impressment as well as Native Americans. Native Americans being aided and armed by the British. They were basically aided and armed by the British. They were basically giving the Native Americans weapons, being like, hey, so if you don't take their if you don't fire at them, they're going to take all your land. And that was not okay with some people. Moving on to events of the war. So then the war gets started. A couple of things happen in a series of flame and things. Because fire. So much fire. All the fire. We have the burning of Washington. And really importantly, Washington, D.C., I should say, we have the writing of a very special song, but at the time it was just a poem. It was a poem written by Francis Scott Key called The Star-Spangled Banner. And it was written by Francis. You guys remember what I told you to remember his name? Sing on Key. Sing on Key. That's supposed to help you remember Francis Scott Key. Okay, so the next part, the outcome of the war. The war ends with a treaty, as most wars do. The treaty that we signed is the Treaty of Ghent, because it was signed in Ghent, Belgium. Now, the ironic thing is that when this ends, rewinding back, because I just saw a really good question. Who wrote the poem and who wrote the song? Ariel just asked that. The poem was written by Francis Scott Key, and then it was just put to music. The Treaty of Ghent. The Treaty of Ghent is signed to end the war. The Treaty of Ghent ends the war. And as the Treaty of Ghent ends the war, no land changes hands. No land changes. It basically ends in a ceasefire. And we are left kind of looking at, okay, so what happened? And as we said, okay, so what happened? As we say that, we're going to see that the economy has changed. We go from a nation whose economy was going down like this to a nation whose economy is skyrocketing upwards. Primarily because we have an increase in manufacturing, and we are becoming more and more economically independent. Ooh. Double checking. And guys, remember, that was because this time period during the war, there was a decrease in trade. There was a decrease in trade and foreign supply. And so because of that, we had to create our own goods. Good question. Jack just asked, how much does patriotism lead to economic growth? Patriotism leads to economic growth because when people feel good about their country, they're going to feel good about buying things as well. Let's see about New Orleans. And the last thing that kind of happens, a little bit hilariously, is the battle that never had to happen, which is the Battle of New Orleans. And the Battle of New Orleans happens, and out of the Battle of New Orleans, Andrew Jackson becomes a hero, basically because he goes up against 7,500 British soldiers with his 4,500 men, knocks out 2,000 of them, and then, let me scoot this up, only 71 of his men get injured. It's insane. Andrew Jackson became a hero. Andrew Jackson became a hero, and it was awesome. All right. Next up, the next and final person is the person we stopped talking about today. Michaela just asked, is that all we need to know about Jackson? Pretty much for now. You're gonna have to know a little bit more about crazy old Andrew Jackson. He's a super fascinating guy, so I'm really excited for us to talk about him. Yes, Nathan, that was after the Treaty of Ghent. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is Monroe. And can you guys remember what his presidency is called and nicknamed? At least at the start of his presidency, it is nicknamed the Era of Good Feelings. It's nicknamed the Era of Good Feelings, mostly because the economy is really good. Not only is the economy really good, but we're feeling really patriotic after the war. We're feeling like we can do anything, and that's going to lead us to a lot of good things happening. First of all, we're going to have a couple of court cases that take place. We're going to have a couple of court cases that take place. Oh, Melissa! Oh, old students! Ethan! Oh, guys, my old students are stopping by. I love it. It makes me happy. A few things happen, one of which is Marbury versus Madison, Gibbons v. Ogden, McCulloch versus Maryland. Marbury v. Madison, Gibbons v. Ogden, McCulloch versus Maryland. We have all the big court cases. Marbury versus Madison happens during Jefferson's presidency. But during Monroe's presidency, we get Gibbons v. Ogden and McCulloch v. Maryland. McCulloch v. Maryland is the one about the National Bank. Look at me, I'm really good at drawing banks because money. And Gibbons versus Ogden is the one about trading rights. The most important thing you need to know, though, is that the federal government beat the state government. The federal government beat the state government. I'm a really good artist. I really appreciate the compliments on my artistry. It's insanely good. Okay, the next thing that happens in all the things, again, we're in this time period where you have this renewed sense of nationalism. Can you guys remember off the top of your head who was the Supreme Court Justice during this time period? Supreme Court Justice. Was our boy John Marshall. John Marshall was the leader of the Supreme Court. He's the one who comes up with that idea of judicial review. Next thing, though, is the Monroe Doctrine, and Ms. Puckett likes to refer to it as the Monroe Doctrine because I'm hilarious. So Monroe Doctrine, aka Stoptrine. Let me find all my colors. The Monroe Doctrine, what does it put a stop to? Can anyone tell me that? Again, the stop sign is just insane. It stops European colonization. It stops European colonization. It stops European colonization in the Western Hemisphere. Basically, we're getting kind of scared because if I'm gonna draw the globe, which again I'm super good artist, so things and stuff are happening, and this is because America, then like South America kind of, because globe. And then over here we were like, hey, that's like Africa. And then like also like Europe kind of, and like other things are connected to it. Kind of looks like looks like the sideways F from Facebook, so at least I got that going for me. And like Asia, and then like Antarctica's down here. But basically, this whole area down here, a lot of it had been they've been declaring their independence. Everyone's declaring their independence, and all of a sudden America's thinking, hey, like we're kind of away from European powers. Now, because we're away from European powers, we don't really want them getting involved anymore than they already are. So we stop any European colonization, basically say there's no more new colonies. Whatever you have, you can keep. You can't add any more. And okay. Furthermore, is the Missouri Compromise. The Missouri Compromise was one of our big things about sectionalism. When we're talking about problems our nation faced, the Missouri Compromise is going to lead to a lot of sectionalism. The issue was Missouri wanted to come in as what type of state? Think about it. What type of state does Missouri want to come in as? Missouri wanted to come in as a slave state. However, our nation was already sitting at 11 free states and 11 slave states. Now, if Missouri comes in as a free state, it's going to if Missouri came in as a slave state, it would upset the balance. And if they came in as a free state, they're going to upset the balance. So we come up with a compromise that Maine will come in as a free state, Missouri will come in as a slave state. Now, I had some kids ask me, so did Maine just come out of nowhere? Maine at that time was part of Massachusetts, and they just decided to break off and become their own thing. Okay, so we have now we have 12 free states, 12 slave states, and this stays that way for about 20 years, but it's still a problem. Again, 11 free, 11 slave states, It maintain and anywhere in the new territory. In the new territory, everywhere above the 3630 parallel is free, and below it will be slave states. Boop. This is going to add to increased tensions. This is going to lead to it's going to the debate and the problems are going to lead to increased sectional tensions, but eventually this is going to relieve some sectional tension. All right. All the things are happening. Okay. Now, moving on. Moving on. Last thing that happens during his presidency that we're going to talk about is the American system. And this was really about internal improvements. It's about internal improvements. So we're going to have roads. We're going to have canals. We're going to have roads. We're going to have canals. We're going to help transportation. And we're going to help transportation. All this makes the U.S. seem smaller, and it's going to connect America to the West. Okay, now, at this point, I'm opening up for questions. We're going to have I have about 7 minutes. I say 7 minutes, it'll be about 10 maybe. I want to know your questions. Oh, Jack Hamilton died in 1805, I believe. Let's see. Can you make a list of the important dates? That's a good question. The date that you need to know most for this test. (1803) Louisiana Purchase. No, you won't get time in class to review before your test. I think it was July of 1805. Oh, did you die in 1804? Well, the thing's in the stuff. Important dates we need to remember: 1803. Hi, Christina. Good to see you. George, we cannot extend the UD turn-in date. (1803) Louisiana Purchase. My house is a disaster right now, so no. War of 1812, I've already told you what you need to know about that. You just need to know the War of 1812, like what happened and why it mattered. More questions. I will not be giving you a house tour. We're on my document camera, so that's not happening. Further questions you have about anything? Brayden. Hello, Brayden. Oh, goodness. Where did the tariff come from? Did England hate it? Why did the British have to obey it? The British don't have to obey it, but they have to deal with the ramifications of it. What's it called? Tariffs. Hi, Nathan. Engaged. That's why I had you guys ask questions in class. Tariffs. Tariffs are something that America does, and we put tariffs on British goods. And so it really only affects our citizens. Good question, Olivia. What about President Madison? President Madison was president during the War of 1812. That's pretty much what you need to know about him. Kat, though, back to tariffs. Really, all you need to know about tariffs, the British didn't like them because we were making their goods more expensive. Now, all of a sudden, they're selling less goods in America. So they're going to increase our goods. Okay, I'm waiting for more questions. Washington's presidency ended. He's in office by, I think, like, he's put in office in, like, 1789. It ends in, like, 1796. That's not really an important fact that you need to know. You don't need to worry about that, Michaela. Some Americans like the tariff because it helps American business, but the common Americans do not like it. Ask more questions. When was judicial review put into place? Judicial review. Judicial review was put into place by John Marshall after the Marbury versus Madison case. Again, the when doesn't matter. You just need to understand the concept. Case about the court things that are happening. About the court case things, really what you need to know judicial review, which is where the Supreme Court can declare laws unconstitutional. And that was through Marbury versus Madison. And all you need to know about the other court cases case is that other cases just grew the power of the federal government. Alright. After the War of 1812, did the Native Americans leave us alone? Kind of. It was kind of like they kind of fell apart. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? I will stay on for about until 8:03 answering your questions. 8:03. Ask me more questions. Other foreign policies besides the Monroe Doctrine. You need to know the farewell address. For foreign policies. You need to know the other ones that we talked about, but you need to know farewell address. And staying away from permanent foreign alliances, and also the Monroe Doctrine. Let's see. As far as oh goodness, also so many questions are being asked right now. Do we need to know something other than foreign policies, besides Monroe Doctrine? You need to know farewell address. You need to know Monroe Doctrine. Monroe Doctrine is going to stop European colonization, or at least further European colonization. Henry Clay, I don't know much. I don't know a lot about Henry Clay. Henry Clay, for our purposes right now, he was a war hawk during the War of 1812. He came up with the Missouri Compromise. And then he also came up with the American system. He's kind of a great thinker. Okay, what else we got? What else we got? Henry Clay. Ah, everything's wrong. Can we use our notes on the test? No, you cannot. Okay. Seen a lot of you guys like this. Who was the person that made the roads and canals? That was the idea of Henry Clay. I don't know. You guys keep asking me to draw my life, and I don't know what that means. Class code for 5th period. If you're receiving the remind text, it will be there. How many cases are there that we need to know? All you really need to know, guys, about the court cases is that they grew the power of the federal government. The apocalypse of stupidity. That is my greatest fear. That America is foolish. Alright. So, I think it looks like, I like you guys are all telling me what a draw my life is. I'm really glad you guys liked this. It seems that you guys enjoyed this. I enjoyed doing this with you. Hopefully you guys can see the paper in fully. I'm pretty much drawing my life right now. I'm basically teaching. Anyways, that will be the end of our first YouTube live. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Biggest subject on the test. That was a fun thing. Biggest subject on the test. Really, it's just a little bit of everything. Study tonight, guys. You're gonna do great. Sleep well. Sleep well. See y'all later.